So because I can't remember all the words that make this session name, I'm going to ask my colleague Noel to just tell us a little bit about, she's the one who proposed this workshop, by the way. So she's going to very quickly give us an overview of what the session is about and what we're trying to achieve out of it. And then we'll introduce our speakers. We're still having problems with a remote speaker, but we'll kick off anyway with those present here in the room. And then we'll take it from there. So my name is Raj Singh from the Internet Society. This is Noel de Guzman, my colleague also from the Internet Society. And Noel, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Raj. Okay, so the title of the session is promoting the participation of MSMEs, that's micro, small, and medium enterprises in the digital economy. So the rationale behind the session really is the lag in, we've noticed, especially in emerging markets, there's a continuing increase in take-up of in internet take-up among the general population. But we've noticed even in developed economies in Asia Pacific that there is a lag in the speed of businesses adopting internet for business use. And we think this is important for several factors. One of them is that the internet has a lot of potential. MSMEs make up to 99% of businesses in Asia Pacific. So they're pretty much, everyone calls them the backbone of the economy. And we're all trying to build a digital economy, I think. But at the same time, you have the backbone of the economy not participating or not able to participate. Thank you. In the development of that economy. So that's the gist of the session, and what we want. The objective of the session is really to thresh out what are the barriers, what are the tools available, what are the barriers to adoption, what is being done in different parts of the regions. We have representatives from each of the sub-regions here, and to be able to come up with ways with the objective of how we can kind of bridge that gap between internet adoption overall in Asia Pacific and internet adoption and use by these sectors, and many of them also in areas that need targeted assistance. For instance, when we talk about micro enterprises and how they can fully utilize the internet, as we can relate it to also bridging several aspects of the digital divide.
Well done. Thank you, Noel. So I think we all know, I guess I'm going to drive the cameraman crazy if I keep on walking around, so I'll stand here for a while. I think we all, well, I think most of us would largely realize the fact that MSMEs throughout the world, not just in this region or in developing countries, but I think even in developed countries, including the one I'm from, the MSME sector plays a significant role in the local economy. There's various statistics that are flying around, so I won't try and summarize all of those. But the fact remains that, to my mind, MSMEs form an important part of the local economy, particularly when it comes to employment as well. So there's, one is providing the goods and services and all those sort of things, but as well employment. We have our big companies, of course, which we're always happy to have. But if you look at the taxation revenue that flows out of the big companies compared to what the MSME sector pays, particularly the M and the S out of the MSMEs, I think as a proportion of their revenue, you would think that their contribution to the economy in terms of taxation and other ways is actually far more significant as a percentage than you would have from very large multinationals who are able to work out tax breaks and all sorts of things to make things more interesting. So that is why I say that MSMEs have a very important role. And these are the 2-person or 1-person operations, the little corner shop as well. They're all MSMEs. It's the cottage industries, it's smaller companies, it's service providers, it's tradespeople, and the list goes on and on. So they have a very important role in the economy. What is more important, however, I think, is that the internet and ICTs, I've got to stop walking, the camera's going nuts. What was I going to say? The internet and ICTs, I think, have this opportunity to transform the MSME sector. Now, in some countries, in some regions, MSMEs have taken that up, and they've made it's made a big difference to their business, as well as the services they're able to provide. However, for a large part of this region in particular, I don't think our MSMEs are able to capitalize on the opportunities that the digital economy would provide them with. So it's not just about the things they're able to do and sell, it's also about internal efficiencies. How can they run their businesses better? Be they micro businesses or relatively large businesses, it doesn't matter. The fact is, the tools that we have available as part of the digital economy can really make a difference. So I'm very pleased to have with me today three very distinguished speakers. We have Rachel from Intel, we have Alan Strickland from Internet New Zealand, and we have Lemay from the VietNet, I gotta get this right, VietNet Internet Association or ICT Association? VietNet ICT. I knew there was VietNet and ICT in there. In addition to that, we have David Appasamy from India, who's our remote speaker. Now, I don't quite know whether he'll be able to join us. We're still having technical difficulties. Do we have David? So let me, David's an old friend. I've known him for a very long time, and he's had many roles in the South Asian landscape, basically. He was the chief marketing officer for a very large internet service provider in India. And after that, he went off to run a micro lending organization, which I believe was the largest in India, perhaps. So he's got some great background on what the micro funding issues are, what some of the business issues are when it comes to SMEs. So I hope he is able to join us, because I think his contribution would be quite interesting. And then, of course, we have Noelle, my colleague from ISOC, and I'll get, she's from the Philippines, so I'll get her to speak a little bit about Southeast Asia and all the experiences there, in particular Philippines and maybe Indonesia, which is also big on MSMEs. So with that, I think we still have technical difficulties with David, so I'll let them try and work on that. So shall we start off with the presentations then? So Rachel, could I ask you to kick off? Thanks. Of this event, we are going to have all the difficulties that are possible technically and logistically.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Rachel from Intel Taiwan, on our regional director Anjan Ghosh's behalf, to share our view on innovation for economic empowerment to foster the micro SME to participate and succeed in the digital world. As a technology and a business leader, Intel works to address major social issues that we face today, around the world and in our backyards. From advancing global education and promoting broad economic development, to working hand in hand with our neighbors in the communities, we are committed to applying technology and the talents of our employees to improve lives and inspire the next generation of innovators. There is a proven relationship between innovation and a long-term economic development. Innovation stimulates economies, provide increased competitiveness. To foster innovation and derive economic growth, everyone needs to be empowered by education, employment, and entrepreneurship skills. According to the research, every $1 invested in education and skills has a huge effect on economic growth and national competitiveness. In today's presentation, I would like to share what are the resources, tools, and strategies we bring to enable micro SMEs and empower them to succeed in digital world. First, knowledge and tools. Intel Learn is a technology education program that designed in collaboration with governments and NGOs, with a target audience from age 8 to 25 years old, with little or no computer skills, in the underserved communities from the developing countries. The learning objectives are to develop their 21st century learning skills, technology literacy, critical thinking, collaboration, and teamwork in digital world. Up to date, 5 million people from 40 countries across the world have attended the training, and this program already helped them to be succeed socially and economically self-sufficient. Henry Yadi from South Sulawesi, Indonesia, is the social entrepreneur and also the project leader in the local innovation and learning center. He got the scholarship from the MIT and the Global Entrepreneurship Boot Camp after he attended our Intel Learn program. This is just one of the cases from 70,000 remote islands, people who are empowered by the program and gain the opportunity to a broader world. In India, people like Mahazabi, Sumita, Shasta, and Amit are all benefited from the program. They can sell their product in the virtual world, find a job, or teach more kids from the rural areas. Masio Panayas also is one of the cases in Philippines under the DG Bayanihan program that we partner with other organizations. Okay. Being a poor mother of 3 kids, she took the Intel Learn Easy Step training, and now her family income increased from 200 pesos to 10,000 pesos daily. And now she is able to send her children to school. After obtaining the knowledge and receiving the training, we know those micro SME need the tools and weapons to conquer in the digital world for their business and make money. So we created the Web Builder Credit with other industry partners so that they are able to contact only one provider to solve their business problems. And they are able, for those people, micro SMEs, they are able to increase their engagements with customers and from the social media and make more money. Thirdly, the platform for them to show and link to the world. To promote the entrepreneurship, Intel worked with the APEC, the premier intergovernmental forum dedicated to promote free trade, investment, and economic growth in Asia-Pacific region. After 4 years of collaboration, we are excited and pleased to see those people, young startups, that grow their business from 1 or 2 people, but they finally go globally. These are the numbers that exciting all of us, that the employment growth rate is 94% higher, and they increase their year-to-year revenue to 120,000 US dollars. And also they collect more than 60 million US dollars from MNCs, VCs, venture capitals, and angels. And this is also the real life story. That TECHERA from Vietnam, they are the young couple with 3 kids. They sold their house to chase their dreams. But now, their ideas got adopted by 20,000 users and 6,000 local experts from over 98 countries. And recently, they just received the seeding fund from the one venture partners. Now they are able to get their house back and hire more people to expand their business to next level. Okay, I actually prepared a video that shows the power of entrepreneurship, but since I'm run out of time, I wonder if you are interested to see this video. If yes, please raise your hand. Okay. It's okay?
While the speakers too, I think we need to give them some time as well, and then if there's time at the end, we'll be happy. How long is the video? Okay, so we'll try and do that after the speakers have spoken. So Alan, could I bring you in here? So one thing that came across from the presentation Rachel did, of course, was that Internet and ICTs, and I think we all know this, it gives the opportunity for little businesses, wherever they may be, to compete globally. That I think is one of the main points that we probably can make out of what Rachel displayed. So Alan, thank you.
Thank you. I'm Ellen Strickland. I'm Community Program Director for Internet New Zealand. And our vision is a better world through a better Internet. And one of the things that we look for is supporting businesses of all sizes to have better business through better Internet. And so we have a lot of work that we do that touches on this topic of the session today around empowering small, medium sort of businesses to make the most of the Internet. And so I wanted to share just some thoughts from our experiences about, from a variety of things that we do, of the main sort of barriers and some things that you can do to help overcome those. In our work, we are involved in bringing together the national IGF of New Zealand, which is called NetHui, and that includes a lot of people from the business community talking about use and challenges. We also work with partners, organizations. We have a grants program, and work we do ourselves as Internet New Zealand, and also our 2 subsidiaries, which we run .NZ, the CCTLD. So to sort of organize, I suppose, what I think are really important, I think first of all, it's really important to remember that actual connectivity is really important to businesses. Having reliable, good connectivity is an issue for businesses, and that's particularly true for the rural sector in New Zealand. It includes farmers and small rural communities that don't have very good Internet access, and that actually having good, affordable infrastructure is important. So the ways that we address this is we do a lot of work around good enabling legislation for a competitive environment that helps allow better access for people, strong infrastructure that telcos can work with, and to help create affordable connectivity options for people. It's true in New Zealand and in many places, mobile internet has helped, but actually getting good speeds at affordable prices is something that's a real issue. And so I think it's important to remember that that is really a cornerstone. You're not going to be able to take advantage of the internet if it isn't good internet and it isn't affordable. You know, for example, the satellite connectivity that's required in many rural places in New Zealand, you're looking at thousands of dollars a month, you know, to have that set up, and just isn't affordable at all. At places there isn't mobile internet even. Another way that we sort of support this access is through our community grants program that is sort of supporting community projects that are about getting online, creating Wi-Fi sort of around the local school, in the local town, and Wi-Fi at business centers, sort of having remote working hubs with good access that people can come to. So that there are ways to both trying to get that great access to everyone where their business is, but also working with the community to help support people that can't get that yet. So I think that's important. So once you have access, the next thing is about digital skills. And we really find, particularly in the small sort of businesses, people who have established trades, for example, someone who's been a plumber for 30 years, that, you know, that the business processes are mostly manual and that they may not have those digital skills. They didn't get them in their education process. They've been busy running a small business, which is an incredibly taxing thing for anyone who's ever tried. You know, it's a 24-hour-a-day commitment, and taking time, having the resources to upskill is quite difficult. So one of the things we do is try to support digital skills programs that really cover the broad spectrum, from very basic, you know, you have people that really don't even know how to email, you know, and then having a stair step. So we have a partner organization who we fund, 2020 Communications Trust, and they run a range of digital skill programs, a lot of them through the local libraries in the community that are module-based. They're flexible in terms of timing, on weekends, on evenings, and try to offer, as well as some, I think they're moving to some online courses, and helping people be aware of other options for skills training as well. So when you have access and skills, there's still, you know, basic skills, there's still a lot to be done around understanding of the real use and the services you can get through the internet. And that's true for all of us. The services, the benefits of the internet are changing and growing all the time with new software as a service options for small businesses that can really help being a really big part of this sort of entrepreneur sort of tech innovation industry. So ways that we try to help with that is through things like our national IGF. So having sessions where people share about how they use, you know, the internet, both public facing, so website, email, but also for, as Raj mentioned, their own internal systems, accounting. Point of sale now can be online and integrated with your website, things like that. So having discussions, creating spaces for people to share best practice and meet people who are, you know, maybe have a startup and are trying out some new stuff and to figure out what works. As .NZ, we've also done a campaign that's actually directly about getting small to medium enterprise online. It's called Get Yourself Online, .NZ. Now the focus of this campaign as .NZ is very much about .NZ. So it's about talking about the value of that brand, and this sort of, we've done quite a bit of research that in New Zealand it is a really strong brand, and in terms of website usage and email, that it sort of can confer a lot of benefits to small businesses to have their own domain name with .NZ rather than Facebook or some other sort of free platform. But I think, you know, a lot of what we've seen through that campaign too, and it has case studies that you can look at, stories of all kinds of businesses. So small tourism businesses, you know, plumbers being, you know, there's a couple on there, hairdressers, that have found all kinds of benefits from being online in general, as well as specifically from having a .NZ. So helping share those stories is an important way of people seeing in action what it means to use the internet for these small businesses. And so I think you know, I think these are the three sort of pillars. I would just sort of close by mentioning one thing that comes up a lot in the IGF is about security issues and risks. This is something that really concerns small businesses. They don't, you know, have an IT department. You know, they're worried about, you know, the privacy of their accounts, their customers' privacy, the cost or problem they would have when they rely on the internet, and if they got hacked or had problems, that it can really, this can be enough to put people off. It's a major issue. Understanding best practice around security, knowing that they can access expertise and help if they have issues, and being ready to deal with it and sort of prepared that is a risk about being online, and how to minimize it and how to manage it is probably just a standout issue that I would table as something that it's really important to, it's fear, you know, and that's, there's so much to learn moving to being an online business, and something like that is such a big scary risk that it's really something that I think, you know, needs to be proactively addressed with people. Even if they don't know to be afraid of it, it could be something that could be a real problem if they aren't aware, so it's something that needs to be addressed. Yeah, so that's our experience. Thanks.
So two things again that resonated with me there. One is digital skills, and I think sometimes we take for granted that everyone knows how to use a computer, get online and do all that sort of things. It's not true. I'll give you one example. Close to where I live, there's this little shop that sells this certain type of peanuts, and I love peanuts. And I had to try and find out what time does the store close so I could go and buy it before I came on this trip. I had no idea what time it closed. I don't have a phone book at home. I didn't know how to find his address. I Googled the name. Yes, it comes up on Google saying it's there, but there's no full information. So I had to drive down for 20 minutes to go and get it, and he was closed by the time I got there. So what really is nice is, you know, when you Google or search, let me be a bit more generic, search for a company name or something in your favorite search engine, and it comes up with, you know, the name of the company or the business, the rough location of where it is, or the location of where it is, and sometimes it will say, you know, opening hours or closed now, which I really like. I find that so useful. You know, just little things like that. And then also, when I do go back home, I'm going to say to the guy, hey, I'll build a page for you, but, you know. Okay, so thanks for that. And of course, the security and privacy issues, I think that really is, you know, in some countries we've got privacy legislation coming in, and, you know, there is a pretty hefty penalty if customer data is leaked. So that's also an issue that I think is going to slowly boil to the top. So with that, can I bring in my friend from Vietnam, Lê Mai?
I feel more confident when I stand in front of you, so I think I should stand there.
So you'll drive the camera crazy too. Good.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hương. I come from a non-profit organization in Vietnam, and it means Vietnamese ICT, and our organization is working with the sector to support disabilities youth in Vietnam, to support the NGO in Vietnam, and to support the social enterprise in Vietnam in the ICT, how to make use in ICT for their work, their career, and their their businesses. And today I want to share with you about how the internet can boost the enterprise development in Vietnam. Actually, it's SME, because the micro business in Vietnam is too small. Like it's a kind of a family business. It's not like with the license or things like that. And you can see, first of all, I just want to bring you some figures about the internet user in Vietnam. You can see that we have around 58% of people in Vietnam using internet, and they all are active users. They use social media, and they use mobile. That's a new trend of internet, a new trend of consumer now. And also the social networking side also is very very hot in Vietnam. Most of my friends from since I think 12 until 15 have Facebook or things like that. First of all, and second, I just want to introduce you some characteristics of SME in Vietnam. First, they focus on the customer. They provide service and things and goods for the customer. That's a customer focus. The second is so competitive because you know that 93% of enterprise in Vietnam are SMEs, and but also they provide 51% labor resources. They have for the labor resources in Vietnam more than a half. And they provide 40% GDP in Vietnam as well. So they are so strong. They are like so helpful for the Vietnam economy, as someone said before, that they are very important for the economy of the country. There are some like online activities for the young people. Purchase the product is not very high in Vietnam. That's because some issues that I will talk later on. This is some figures about the activities for the young generation in Vietnam. And the mobile is a new trend. Vietnam, there's more like Vietnamese people have more mobile numbers than the population. It's around more than 100 million mobile numbers, but only 90 million people in population. And because of the, you can see that the figures bring the opportunities for the SME in Vietnam. I just want to show you two successful cases of how to use internet, how to use online trading for the people. The first case is Facebook. This is the only channel that they sell their product. And you see that the product is so special, that the food for people, they pack it in the package, and you don't have to worry what you had to cook today. For my family, I just think I want to food for 4 days for 4 people, and then they prepare things for you. And they balance the material, fish, meat, pork, beef, things like that, and they all done it, pack it in the box, bring it to your house, and you just open it, cook it for 30 minutes, and you have very delicious meal for the family. And that's a month ago, they got the investor for $4 million for the new startup. Because they that open for about a year, just a year. And online, just online selling for that. And the second is an application. It's like a kind of online banking. You can transfer, buying things via this. We call that Momo wallet. And then even you don't have bank account, you can withdraw money and transfer money and buy things by this one. And this model get around $28 million for investment last year. And this is I think to the most successful case of online trading in Vietnam now. Not only the businesses, but also the social enterprise get the benefits from online trading. Well, that one is it's named Tao Hair. The product from the disabled kids, they use their finger or things to paint in any material, and then the producer collect this and put it in the material, and then make wallet, make the bed, make the notebook, and the writing, the handbook for people, and then some like clothes, hat, and sell it. And they cannot do that without the online trading, because it costs less and it have more impacts for the people. And the NSC is a supporter for this social enterprise. Besides the opportunities, we can see a lot of challenges for the online trading. First of all, it's about the law for the. Okay, first of all, it's the law for the SME in Vietnam. Around we have an article 292 for the penal code penal code says that if you don't have a license to sell or buy things via online trading, you won't be permitted like that, and it limit the enterprise for doing the online trading very much. The second, the cyber security also the problems in Vietnam, because you can be hacked your account and you can have your personal information lost, and your phone can get so many advertisement because your information online and was hacked. The country of people just want to touch things, see things before decide to buy things. So that's why less people in Vietnam using online trading. And the location also the problems, because only I think more women in Vietnam in the young age and in the city areas love to do the online trading rather than the older and the men in rural area. One thing is the payment system is not very good, because we don't have PayPal, we don't, because there's this one and this one is the pros and cons, because the cyber security is not very good, so the payment system is one of the threats for the people. And the very important is the remove from the forums and social networking site. That's the case. She's is a very famous, the top one of a single model in Vietnam. And when people discovered that she was fall in love with a man who got married already, and all around, most women in Vietnam said that we had to ban her, otherwise we don't buy things, because he was ambassador of some very famous branding, but people made a campaigns to ban her, to ban the products if she still was ambassador. So some of branding has to withdraw the contract with her for this reason. And the second case is a kind of a brand of milk. That's the milk for the kids, and a woman says that, wow, this milk is not because we didn't see any product there was sold in French, but people said that is a French product, and they make a forum in the big forum, the biggest forum for the mom in Vietnam. They said that don't buy this product, even they have a license, even they have a product checking and tests and things like that, but the product suddenly die for 1 or 2 months after that campaign. And that's all of my presentation today. I just want to share the last thing is that besides opportunities, we can see the challenge. But Vietnam also still is a very promising market for the SME and the online trading enterprise, online trading for the future, because it is rising very fast in the recent years. Thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you. And I think that really, thanks for highlighting some of the challenges, I think, which we touched on before, but you've laid them out quite nicely. So with that, is David ready to go? David, can you hear us? I guess that must be wrong. David, thank you. We had lots of issues getting you online, but it looks like we've got you now. So I'm not sure whether you followed the conversation so far or not. We've had 3 speakers offer their perspectives on the topic. And I thought I'd bring you in now if you're able to. Right. So over to you, David. Thanks. And maybe if you could introduce yourself too, perhaps, because I haven't given you much of an introduction, and since you're not here in the room, people can't see you. We don't have you on the video, unfortunately. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm David Apasami from Chennai, India, and I've been closely involved with internet governance issues ever since 2005. My passion is to ensure that everybody gets to use the internet for what it is. Part of my experience is running a microfinance company in India. we served about 500,000 rural women with small loans to be able to start off their own businesses. So those are really micro businesses. It's not like an MSME, which is a company with 30 people or 100 people, even up to 500 people. Individuals, maybe employing 1 or 2 people. So
I mean, we've lost audio and you're also very...
So I bring that perspective as well. So in terms of the micro entrepreneur as well as the government. So I'll try and use that experience to share you some ideas of the kind of challenges that India faces. But first, let me give you a background. India, as you know, has 1.3 billion people. That's a lot of people. And 67% live in rural areas. Now there's close to 700 million people living in rural areas. And one of the things we have to recognize is that rural electrification is at best at about 80%. And that has a bearing on the internet access as well. To further complicate matters, we have
David on the link, so I think we'll have to move on. I'm just asking all to send him a note saying that we've lost audio. Sorry about that. It's a pity he couldn't contribute. Noel, do you want to come in and speak a little bit about the Philippines and Indonesia?
Okay, I think I'll focus more on the Philippines this time. So in the Philippines, we have several ministries addressing MSME development. One of them is the Department of Science and Technology. Another one is the Department of Trade. And another one is the Department of Finance. So the finance takes care of, they have micro-lending, they have policies on micro-lending, enabling microfinance. The Department of Trade and Industry would have a dedicated office for MSME development, and also several training programs. They have assistance programs. The DOSD has its own training programs, it has its own assistance programs, has its own, it even helps MSMEs finance equipment acquisition. But what we see, as what we also see in several other developing countries in Southeast Asia, is that it's not being addressed comprehensively. So there's a lot of duplication across many. These ministries are not working together, as we would see, I guess, in other aspects of business where we see the internet coming in. So it's not being addressed comprehensively. So there's that disconnect. At the same time, there's also a disconnect between the government projects and the needs of micro entrepreneurs. For instance, I was talking to the head of an agricultural cooperative last month, and he was keen to avail of all these programs that are in place. Intel's digital literacy, but he doesn't know where to get it. He doesn't know. The farmers who he's working with are half illiterate, so he doesn't know how to get to that first step of just getting them to understand, and at the same time, not just digital literacy, but also financial literacy. So there's that. And then another factor in these programs is that they're addressing registered businesses. The informal economy makes up it employs at least, I don't know, they say up to 60% of the workforce in the Philippines. So that's not being addressed. What these government programs are addressing they're talking to the businesses that are registered, they're talking to the legitimate businesses, but what about the informal economy that makes up a lot of the urban poor, makes up a lot of the rural poor, and these these people are subsistence businesses. So yeah, I think I would end my intervention there.
Okay, thanks, Noel. So I'd like to make this a bit more interactive. We've heard from our speakers. Unfortunately, we couldn't hear much from David due to the link. It's a small room. We don't have too many people in the room, so we'd be really happy if you were to contribute to the discussion to move things in the direction. With us today also is Mahathir Pun from Nepal. Some of you may know him. He's a bit of an icon in the internet world for the things he's done, and he's won multiple awards for the things he's done. If you're not aware of what he's done up in the Himalayas, in the mountains of Nepal, he's set up wireless networks, which he's been doing for several years now, and it's connecting rural communities, dispersed communities, and if I recall correctly, there was even an attempt to set up some sort of e-commerce platform between these locations and villages and see how that could bring them into the digital economy. So I'll just ask him to speak a little bit on some of his experiences. It's sort of impromptu, so thank you.
Thank you, Rajnesh. Actually, when I started building this network in the rural areas, people in the rural areas, they even didn't have heard about the word internet. Okay, so this was very new word for them, and they had not seen computers. So during the 2000, that time the goal was to use the internet just for communication, because we didn't know anything about how the internet could be used for other things. We just wanted to use the internet for communication between the villages, because there was no communication. Slowly, we started learning how to use computers, and then we started using the computers for the internet for different in different areas, such as education, health, and others. But in the meantime, we also tried to use the internet for local e-commerce, what we call local e-commerce. Actually, there was not e-commerce the way you were using in the urban areas and in the developed countries. What we did is we built a bulletin board for the villagers in the local server, and provided that opportunity for the villagers to put the produces, the products they have in different villages to sell, mostly the agricultural products and some handicrafts, things like that. And those products, the villagers put those products in order to tell other villagers what they have to sell. There was not the reason it was not like e-commerce is because there was no payment platform for that. So and that way you can just go to the internet website and use your credit card and pay it and get the products. So that way, we help these people to use the internet and let other villagers know about these products. That was very helpful. I mean, you can imagine, because the reason I started that is because whenever somebody had to find one goat or a buffalo or a cow or an ox, they had to travel several days around the villages just to find one, and that helped to save the time of the villagers to find just the products they want to sell. Like I said, because of the payment gateway and this payment system we don't have, and we haven't been able to develop that, we are not selling anything online. Another thing that we are doing there is, to just recently, after we bring the internet in the rural areas, and people are using the internet to set up, remittance, business there, because there are many people in the mountain villages living outside and working outside and sending their villages, their families money. So once you get the internet in the village, in the rural areas, it is easier to start this remittance service or money transfer service. Another thing that some of the people in the rural areas are using the internet is for communicating or for running their cooperatives. So there are several small cooperatives in mountain villages, and in some places people have started, using the online services. These cooperatives, different types of cooperatives, actually health cooperatives and agriculture cooperatives, they are using this internet for some of their small businesses like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those examples from Nepal. I believe David is trying to come back on again. So while he's trying to do that, shall we play the video we had? He said 2 minutes, right? Yeah? Do we have the video? Yeah, okay. So we'll play the video and then we'll try and bring David in, and then invite comments from the audience, please, if you have questions, comments. One thing that struck me was, it hasn't popped up yet, or maybe it did sort of, but I think maybe it was what Noel was saying about what the MSME departments or ministries are doing. And one is the issue of tax incentives. What incentives do, particularly for businesses which are registered. Of course, those from the informal sector, obviously the incentives would not be available for them. But just trying to see how you could, in some countries, for example, there's been a tax write-off you get if you invest in IT technologies to help your business. So, for example, in Australia, it's $20,000 every financial year. So if you're a small business, you need to upgrade your IT equipment or build new IT equipment, build new IT services into your existing business. It's a complete write-off for up to $20,000 every financial year, which is useful for small businesses because that can get them certain services or products in terms of IT skilling or upskilling, which may be useful. So I'd invite comments on those sort of aspects as well. So with that, can we play the video, and then we'll see if David can come back on. Thanks. Okay, thanks for that. So we're trying to band-aid David into the session using Skype and Noel holding the mic. So David, shall we have another go?
David, can you hear us? Hi, David. David? I could hear him earlier. David?
Okay, so we've tried twice, so it's just not the day today for David to speak to us. So thanks anyway, David. I appreciate you staying up and trying to be connected to us. Oh, can you hear us now? We can hear something now.
Hi, David.
Can you hear me on Skype?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Can you hear it? Yes, they can hear it too. Yes?
Yeah, so should we go ahead?
Yes, let's go ahead. Please do feel free to continue your talk.
Okay, I'll continue from where I was earlier. I've already introduced myself, so a little bit of a background on India. We have 1.3 billion people, of whom 67% live in rural areas. Many of these people are self-employed. They are micro-entrepreneurs. So that's close to a large number of those 700 million people out there. Of course, we take a family of 5 as an average, the number of entrepreneurs will be much smaller, but still a very large number. And these areas have an electrification coverage of about 80%. So that determines where people can use devices and where internet access can be provided. The number of official languages in India is 15, and there are close to 1,500 dialects. If you ask a fellow Indian at the conference to show you a denomination of the rupee is 100 rupees, the note, it will have to be written in 15 languages on that note, because those are the official languages. Now that's a further complication in terms of language. Literacy is also at something like 45%. So the ability for people to read and therefore use e-commerce is limited. And many of the micro-entrepreneurs are in what's called the non-formal economy. Their spending and consumption is captured, but not their economic activity. So this is the complexity of the market we're talking about. So the challenges are clearly literacy, languages, and the Indian government has done wonderful work in enabling the languages on using a regular keyboard. The first language to have a keyboard enablement was Tamil, which is the language that I speak. So that is increasingly not a problem, but content online languages is. The bigger problem is access. The government of India is working to connect 600,000 villages with high-speed internet. That is a humongous task given the scale that it has to cover, the landmass, the fiber optics that have to be laid, the permissions that have to be obtained, and so on. So as of now, in most areas other than urban, connectivity is through the cell phone network, and that's how it works. The other challenge is financial inclusion. The oldest people have a bank account to be able to transact in a transparent manner, not using cash. Here again, the government has a great initiative where each person is being given a bank account, each adult. So that process is on, and a very large number have been opened in the recent past. So we've established that the best means of access to micro-entrepreneurs is over the cell phone network. So the access device is going to be the smartphone. So the question is, how can a micro-entrepreneur conduct business using a phone? That's a challenge in India. The opportunity is that individual transactions today are being done on apps.
And maybe the way forward for micro entrepreneurs to be transacting e-commerce is using apps, and the apps could be from different platforms on which they are present. If you look at what's happening in the world today, and certainly in larger urban areas, banks are moving towards apps to make transactions simpler. Now the same principle could be taken on to e-commerce platforms to bring on the micro entrepreneur. Apps also means there's very little reading to be done, and they can work using symbols. So that, I believe, is where it could start. Now, microfinance firms could act as enablers because they're given loans to micro entrepreneurs, and they are enabling those people to do their own businesses. Now the question is, can they also have a platform which is app-based for them to transact their businesses? Now this is a very real possibility. It would of course have to have language content. The bigger question is, how will they fulfill, whether it will be e-commerce or how will it be possible? Part of the possibility is barter. Even today in rural areas there are people who exchange goods to transact business. So maybe this could be done online. And the very quick adoption of such processes is possible because the Indian entrepreneur, the Indian people are very quick to adopt technology provided it's made easy for them to use, like you currently see on the smartphone. Even Amazon, for example, has reported that from the rural areas of the state that I live in, some close to 10,000 people have come onto that platform as sellers. Now these are people who understand English. So that would mean they're probably semi-urban. But the true rural entrepreneur would need to have one platform or the other and would probably access it using the mobile phone. So this is a broad picture of what the situation is in India if we want to bring on micro-entrepreneurs. The small enterprise is in a better position because they have greater access, they have English knowledge, they have different tools available to them. But the really big challenge that India faces is to how to bring the people who are in the non-formal sector into the formal sector using the internet. And that's what I want to share today.
Thank you, David, and thank you for persevering with us through all the technical issues we had. And again, thank you for comments. I think you made some great comments there as well. So we've got about 15 minutes left for this session, and I have motivation to end on time because I have a plane to catch. But Noel will be here, so if you guys want to continue after the into your coffee break, I'll let the room decide, but I will unfortunately need to go. So with 15 minutes left, I'd like to call on our audience and other participants in the room to please join the conversation. Does anyone have any comments to make or interventions to make, ask any questions of any of the speakers? Please feel free. Yes, please.
I was just wondering, a lot of the examples for like women entrepreneurs, are there kind of like specific programs or initiatives that you're doing for women, or why is it that a lot of the examples I saw in a positive way were like women entrepreneurs? Why is it?
So usually the question is, why aren't the women doing anything? So this is quite the opposite here. Yeah. So I'll ask our panelists to respond perhaps. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Why is it that more women seem to be highlighted in all these initiatives? And you're all ladies?
I can't say there's a definitive answer, but I think that, there's been a lot of energy putting into addressing structural inequalities which have biased against women and trying to bring them in. So, and I think...
to my mind, what that tells me is that something is working, at least somewhere. If we're seeing these women float up, and even at ISOC we have a program where we try and have an empowerment program for women. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Rajnesh. Mr. Roberts. I have a question for Noel. Hi. I remember last year in Macau, there was a workshop. It was one that I was involved in, and we had a speaker, Bettina Kimson from Philippines, and I recall she made a very good presentation on the program of the Philippine government rolling out digital capability and networks across the country. I don't remember the name of the program, but I was reminded of that when you said in your presentation that it's important for owners of SMEs to improve their digital literacy and their financial literacy. That struck me. And I remember Bettina Kimpson's presentation last year. I wonder if you, it seemed to me that her presentation was about the application of, or the implementation of telecentres in small rural areas in the Philippines. And it seemed to me that telecentres are ideal places for those people you were talking about to go along and do night classes or any other classes to get digital literacy and financial literacy. Do you have any comment on that?
Okay. So the program is called Tech for Ed, and it's being rolled out. It has been, the government obviously has limited budget for it. But what they're trying to do, they have a platform in place wherein they're trying to put all these services together, not just for entrepreneurship, but public services like getting passports, filing your tax accounts, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, since it was launched, since that platform was launched, there's been maybe, I don't know, maybe 500 people joining every month or so or more. So these are users. From what I know, what they're trying, I am not sure what is happening on the telecenter side, but because the budget for that program, I think is mainly on building the platform, and then there's also the free Wi-Fi component of it. When it comes to actually building the telecenters, that has not been discussed very broadly, although the idea is there. But what I know is happening is that they are converting internet cafes into online service centers. So there are internet cafes that are being opened up. They're working with internet cafe associations, so to speak, and internet cafe owners to open up these internet cafes to provide digital literacy services, to provide online services in general, and to also have the people who man these cafes, to have them help people do their business online using these. But of course they're not free. So that's being done, at least in the South. That's being started with, at the moment, 3 internet cafes. So let's see where it goes. There's a new there's now a new department of ICT, when that will hopefully bring together most of these initiatives under one roof, whereas before it's a bit disparate. But that is under formation at the moment. Bettina is part of it. So let's see where it goes.
Yes, Maureen.
Thank you. It was very, like the lady over there, I felt it was very encouraging to hear that, like how women were actually sort of like being used, well, I don't know if they were used specifically as examples, but it was, really encouraging to see. I think I might have mentioned in another session that I've just recently been involved in a gender equality project, and it's there were two issues. One was domestic violence, which was raised at the other one. But the second component was empowering women's empowerment. It was actually encouraging women's empowerment, economic empowerment. And the reason being that in the Pacific, I mean, Australia has just put in about $11 million or something, $30 million over a certain number of years, and so it's quite a significant amount of it is to to encourage governments to be looking at enabling women to access funds. One of the things that we found, even within the Cook Islands, is that women can own land, or through inheritance, sort of like our family traditional inheritance. But if they were married and they went to the bank to try and get money, it was the husband who actually had to go in and sign the papers. So even though the women actually owned the land, it was the bank would only accept the husband. So it was one of the things that we actually had to highlight to be looking at legislative changes in regards to, and also working in the banks so that women could actually access funds. There was a really big drive as well, and this is pretty consistent, I think, across the Pacific, because it was Cook Islands, Papua New Guinea, and the Solomons who were involved in this project. So, in the similar sorts of objectives. So, it's that sort of, these are the issues, and it would be really good to sort of see one day that we'd have a similar sort of program, sort of operating within the Pacific as well. Thanks.
Any other?
Very good presentations, everyone. I just had a very general question. For e-commerce, generally, are there any observations about whether it's better for these micro entrepreneurs to work as a provider of through e-commerce products or services? I just was wondering generally which category is generally easier, or what are the advantages, disadvantages of either category?
That's an interesting question. So you want to try and address that? Well, I try and think as well. Let me have an attempt at it. I think it would probably depend on what the circumstances were, what is it that they were selling, and what the market needs were. So, for example, in Australia, tradespeople, plumbers, painters, electricians, and so on, they would obviously provide services, and however, but I don't see us, at least me and people around me, going online to find those people. We still call them up because we know them, or go to a shop front maybe. When it comes to goods, I think for a long time there's been this thinking that, particularly if you look at a lot of the rural areas where there's handicrafts that are made and so on and so forth, that there's a great opportunity for them to sell that directly to the end customer. However, I'm not convinced that it's actually worked out the way people have envisioned that it would work out. I mean, I see lots of websites doing that. There's the big story about we'll get rid of the middleman and it will go straight to the end. There's a bigger portion of the revenue that's generated will go to the creator rather than the middle persons in the value chain who take it to market. I think there are probably some examples where that has worked, but I'm not entirely convinced that it's a holistic thing where everything works fine and all these creators are now making far much more money. There are various reasons for that. One is, how do you actually advertise the product or service you have? I mean, there's so much information on the internet. Yes, you can go to search engines, but if you're looking for something particular, if that engine hasn't indexed that page, then it won't appear on the results, and then of course there's search engine optimization issues as well. And it may be a great product at a really cheap price, but it's probably 1,000 pages deep, and it will never get to the first 5 or 10 pages which people normally navigate to. So I think that's one issue that has been out of this. I think the concept has been great, but I'm not so sure the execution and the end result has really been there. And I see this in South Asia in particular, where I have been working with some award programs and whatnot, which try and highlight these. And then time and time and again, I see the same issue there. The other problem is the payment system, the micropayments. And it's not payments, I would call it micropayments. And some of these goods are very cheap, basically. We're looking at a couple of dollars US at best. But when the transaction cost is $3, and if you're selling something for $5, there's just no economic sense. So I mean, we really need to fix this micropayment thing, and particularly if you want people from overseas to buy the things, then the banks come in and say, okay, we'll take another $20 off you because that's a TT charge. We have to do a telegraphic transfer. Telegraphs don't exist anymore, by the way. And then when it gets into the country, there's another $5 or $10 that the bank will take because that's their local agent fees that they need to take off that as well. So I think payments, I think, are a big barrier, or micropayments, let me say, are a big barrier for MSMEs to succeed at the global level. Locally, I think there's ways around that, but globally, I think that's a problem. So. Yes, Maureen, please.
Thank you. Again, raising the Pacific issue, like with exchanging the banks, it's really difficult for Pacific businesses to sort of set themselves up when Pacific banks aren't accepted by organisations like PayPal. They won't, so that a lot of people, you'd like to sort of set something up with PayPal. Anybody, anyone else can buy through PayPal, except if you work through a Pacific bank, because they're not accepted.
In the Pacific, but as well, I believe, in other regions too. Any other thoughts or comments, or there's something? Oh, so why don't you?
Okay, there's a comment from one of our participants, remote participants. I am not quite sure what this means, so if you might make another comment to clarify, but he says, Make in India and MSMEs in defense, innovation, scale development, smart Andhra Pradesh villages is true Asian commerce for SMEs and MSMEs. If you would like to elaborate on that, then please feel free to do so. Thank you.
So can that person speak, or is it text driven? Okay, so we'll see if there's some response that comes back from Mr. Raju. Any other questions or comments that anyone would like to share? Some issues? One question I have for all of you really is, where do you think MSMEs lay within the prioritization that it's given in terms of the government? Because, as I think I said and some others said as well before, that there are ministries and departments which seem to be focused on MSMEs. But I'm not, and then someone, I think maybe it was Noel or someone who said that they really target registered businesses in her example. But the informal sector, we know, is quite large. In the Pacific Islands, for example, in the villages of South Asia, Southeast Asia, same thing. So how do you address that? And yes, sir.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
it's good you did, because I'm going to sign off and I would have known because I need to catch a plane. So before you intervene, thank you very much. I apologize, I need to leave now. And so how to I will hand over to Noel. Again, thank you very much for attending, and sir, please continue.
So my comment is in regards to the question on products and services and what Rajnesh, you were saying. In case of Afghanistan, we don't have the two challenges that were identified here were the electronic payment system and also the legislature for electronic transactions. So in the absence of that, services industry could not boom on e-commerce. What I've seen in the past couple months that there are 3 or 4 online websites for cash on delivery services. It's product services. Yeah, it's product-based services. It delivers products to customers in the absence of electronic payment, in the absence of electronic transaction legislature, and it has kind of worked out because our postal services is a complete disaster. But still, people are making efforts in terms of making alternate methods that has kind of worked out in Dubai with a souk.com, which is pretty popular in Dubai, and people have kind of copied that and cloned that in Afghanistan, and it's booming and it's working out. So the two challenges that are widely identified, and we have seen that in my country, are the electronic payment system and also the electronic transaction legislature. Thank you.
Yes, please, Rachel. Thank you, Said.
I would like to share the cases in Taiwan. As you know, that Taiwan is a country made up of over 70% of the population is from micro SMEs. And actually for the online payment, of course people can use their credit card, but thanks to the very convenient convenience store chain around Taiwan, for example, like 7-Eleven, we have over 2,000 stores across the island. So people, they don't really need to pay using their credit card. Instead of that, they can just pay at the convenience store. So that is a really powerful channel for people to use online shopping. And also thanks to the social media, many people, they are using like Facebook, like Line. It's very popular used in Taiwan, that they make small business to sell maybe the food they made, maybe some products, handicraft or something like that. So that's pretty friendly, I would say, that to encourage people to start their business and make some living here.
Thank you for your sharing. I just want to share the situation in Vietnam about the online trading now. Normally you can buy things online and you don't pay anything at all until the shipper bring the good to your door with it in your hand, and then you can pay it. However, it becomes the risk for the seller, because it costs money for you to hire a ship, delivery. And if the buyer don't like it, they can return it, and you have to, you cost money with that. And that's the way we are doing now.
Okay, I think several other countries, we're doing that in the Philippines as well, because there really isn't a big credit card market. So obviously sellers would have to adapt to what the market can afford. Are there any more questions or comments? Okay, as we're also running late on this session, I would like to thank the panelists and also the participants for staying and for listening and for participating as well. Thank you very much for staying. I realize this is the last session and you may want to get some other business done after this if you're not staying for the closing. So thank you very much for persevering. Thank you.